This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski,
featuring retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer.
The trial of Chad Daybell continuing on, and it has been an interesting couple of weeks thus far. John Pryor doing his best to represent him, although I think his approach may start to feel like nails on a chalkboard to some, and I'm wondering about the jurors as well. Joining me to discuss, Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI Special Agent. What's been your takeaway thus far now that we're a couple weeks into this thing?
Well, I think, one of the things that's really coming out really clear is Tammy Daybell's naivety. Just her really not understanding that somebody was trying to kill her, even after a guy came up to her in her car with a gun that she just presumed must be a paint gun, and pointed it at her. It's so interesting, too, the fact that she was sick. And I believe that the reason this happened on this day at this time, in terms of when he decided to suffocate his wife, I believe it happened because she was weak. She was very sick and she was in bed. And I don't mean the kind of sick that kills you. I mean the kind of sick like a really bad cold where you don't want to move.
Yeah.
And it gave the perfect environment for him to really take advantage of her and snuff out her life. It just made me feel for Tammy Daybell.
Sure.
That was my takeaway.
And that's the thing. There's so much talk about, she was, like perpetually ill. But she was walking ridiculous amounts of steps, healthier than I think a lot of people, quite honestly, taking a lot of supplements and things of that nature. But there isn't a lot of evidence to show that she was, gravely ill and about to die the way that Chad Daybell has described it. But yes, when you're down and you're ill, you have the flu, a cold, whatever it may be, that, I guess, is the time that one could strike. Do you think they're going to try and pin this into Alex Cox being the one that mysteriously goes into his house and kills his wife and Chad's just none the wiser? I mean, I'm not quite understanding where the defense of Chad is going on this with John Pryor.
Well, I think they've been able and will continue to be able to pin the actual murders on Alex Cox because he did those. He was the hands-on guy, but not this one. Not this one. This was in her bed, I believe, and I don't think a jury is going to buy that anyone other than Chad Daybell was directly responsible for her death. The big hurdle, though, I will say that they have is the fact that initially it was ruled accidental. It wasn't ruled a homicide in terms of the manner of death. And anytime you have something like that, where initially an enemy says something and then they go back, it's in the body, and then relook at everything, and then they say, it's homicide. I think that, the jury has to look at that and consider that.
Another interesting thing on this, and the Tammy Daybell, that seems much easier to connect Chad to. Obviously, the kids, JJ and Tylee, on his property in the backyard. But we haven't seen a lot yet that directly ties Chad to those murders. We've seen, a lot of talk about, zombies and bizarre thinking, let me send you an emoji and you have powers back, all sorts of craziness. But are we going to see better ties to him actually carrying out the murders?
Well, I think one of the pieces of evidence that I really like is the burying of the raccoon, and what's going on back there. And
True.
It's not a raccoon, of course. It's Tylee.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a nice, strong piece of evidence. I think the other thing is just a jury looks usually at things through their eyes, and they're going to say, okay, what person has a property and doesn't realize, bodies are being burned and dismembered and are in my backyard and in my pet cemetery? I think people really look at that, and they're allowed to consider the evidence through their eyes. That's what they're called to do. So I think that's going to be an interesting piece, is just no way could this happen without his knowledge based on the text messages. And then I also like the fact but I see what you're saying. The exact, him being involved, they're going to have to tie together all the circumstances, but just the way he capitulates at the end,
Yeah.
To his daughter. Here you go. I'm going to jail for the rest of prison for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Tidy up.
That was very, telling right there, where I'm not coming back. You better pay the mortgage. Very much consciousness of guilt.
Sick of the ads?
We are too.
Start listening with no commercials now and get access to all of our episodes in advance of everyone else.
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
True Crime Today Premium Plus.
Sign up now.